evening of February 4, 1899, 2 days before the Senate ratified the Treaty of Paris, American soldiers, tasked with sentry duty, fired at 3 Filipino soldiers in Santa Mesa, Manila. This event, where Private Grayson William Walter set off the first shot, was named the Battle of Manila and the beginning of the Philippine-American War. The Philippine Revolution was the fight for independence waged by the Katipunan, a secret society mostly made up of members of the working class who revolted against Spanish colonial rule that presided over the Philippines. This movement, eventually led by Emilio Aguinaldo, defeated Spanish forces in many battles. After much struggle, the Pact of Biak na Bato was signed on December 14, 1897, a truce between the Spanish government and Filipino revolutionaries to end the Philippine Revolution. The conditions had Aguinaldo be exiled in Hong Kong in exchange for 400,000 pesos from Spain, which he then used to purchase weapons needed to continue the rebellion. On May 1, 1898, the first battle of the Spanish-American War, named the Battle of Manila Bay, was fought in the Philippines. Commodore George Dewey sailed from Hong Kong to the Philippines with Emilio Aguinaldo on board. He had returned from exile to reorganize the Katipunan because he believed that the United States would help them gain independence if they aided them in fighting Spain. On June 12, 1898, Emilio Aguinaldo declared the Philippines as an independent nation through the Philippine Declaration of Independence. The declaration was signed by 98 people and marked the end of Spain's 333 years of control over the Philippines. The Spanish-American War ended on December 10, 1898, with the Treaty of Paris being signed. The treaty resulted in Spain giving up sovereignty of Guam and Puerto Rico to the United States and the Philippine Islands for $20 million. What the fighters of the revolution thought would be their path to independence was the complete opposite. The stage was set for another age of colonial rule, but in the hands of America. Following the first shots of the Battle of Manila on February 4, 1899, Emilio Aguinaldo tried to negotiate peace with American Major General Elwell S. Otis, but was rejected. The battle, which consisted of around 12,000 U.S. troops and 40,000 of Aguinaldo's men, resulted in victory for America. Senator Benjamin R. Tillman gave an address to the U.S. Senate a day after the Treaty of Paris was ratified on February 7, 1899. He argued against waging a war in the Philippines by presenting a poem published only 6 days prior titled The White Man's Burden. Written by Rudyard Kipling, a renowned writer and known imperialist, the poem's central motif was the superiority of white men. It described the people of the Philippines as your new-caught sullen peoples, half devil and half child. It expressed American conquest as a selfless duty and that Filipinos, along with other people of color, were in need of being civilized. Upon reading Kipling's work, Senator Tillman put forth his argument. Those peoples are not suited to our institutions. They are not ready for liberty as we understand it. They do not want it. Why are we bent on forcing upon them a civilization not suited to them? And the commercial instinct, which seeks to furnish a market and places for the growth of commerce or the investment of capital for the money-making of the few, is pressing this country madly to the final and ultimate annexation of these people regardless of their own wishes. President William McKinley's decision for the U.S. to control the Philippines was the subject of an interview conducted in the White House on November 21, 1899. He reportedly said, "And one night, late, it came to me this way. I don't know how it was, but it came. That we could not leave them to themselves. They were unfit for self-government, and they would soon have anarchy and misrule over there worse than Spain's was, and that there was nothing left for us to do but to take them all and to educate the Filipinos and uplift and civilize and Christianize them. I sent for the chief engineer of the War Department and told him to put the Philippines on the map of the United States," pointing to a large map on the wall of his office, "and there they are, and there they will stay while I am president." After the Battle of Manila, Major General Elwell S. Otis initiated a naval blockade to isolate the main forces of the Philippine Revolution in 1899. The military directed the closing of many major Philippine ports with the purpose of cutting off supplies from the revolutionaries. Naturally, this caused the rest of the Philippines to suffer from famine. A new order to close the ports on the island of Samar, Philippines, had Company C of the 9th U.S. Infantry Regiment occupy Balanganga, Samar on August 11, 1901. The relationship between soldiers and Filipino natives were at first peaceful, but tensions quickly escalated. On August 22, two women reported they had been sexually assaulted by soldiers of Company C. Their commander, Captain Thomas W. Connell, banned his soldiers from fraternizing with the locals. Then in September 1901, two drunken American soldiers molested a local girl running a shop. Her brothers injured the soldiers while rescuing their sister. Captain Connell wanted to act against the townspeople. He knew their post was due for a visit from the U.S. Army's Inspector General. He ordered soldiers of Company C to round up and detain men in the village to clean the streets. Two small Sibley tents held over 80 men who were deprived of food overnight and made to perform forced labor. The citizens of Samar knew something had to be done. While Company C was having breakfast on September 28, 1901, a surprise attack was executed. The town's police chief grabbed the rifle of Principal Sentry Private Adolf Gamlin and smashed it against his head. The church bells began to ring and conch shells blown, signaling the attack had begun. The church door slammed open with men swarming out and weapons in hand. The Americans were stunned. This came to be known as the Balangiga Massacre, resulting in the deaths of more than 40 out of the 74 soldiers that were ambushed. This incident shocked the U.S. public, and President Theodore Roosevelt gave out orders to pacify Samar. Brigadier General Jacob H. Smith was appointed for the job. When the Marines arrived in Samar, he instructed, "I want no prisoners. I wish you to kill and burn. The more you kill and burn, the better you will please me. And kill everyone over 10. He later instructed, "The interior of Samar must be made a howling wilderness." Smith's strategy on Samar comprised of starvation and torture methods like the water cure to extract information and punish Filipinos who resisted the American occupation. Victims were held down and forced to drink multiple gallons of water. Afterwards, their stomachs were pressed so the liquid would come back up, and repeated until their captors got what they wanted. Houses, livestock, crops, entire villages burnt down in the name of vengeance. On March 23, 1901, the elusive Emilio Aguinaldo was captured by a small force of American soldiers disguised as reinforcements and prisoners of war. Emilio Aguinaldo was captured, then surrendered, and swore allegiance to the United States. Without him, the Filipinos had lost hope, and the uprising withered. On July 4, 1902, President Theodore Roosevelt proclaimed the war officially over, with the United States as victors. Violence persisted against Muslim Moros in the southern Philippines until 1913, despite the ceasefire. At Badajoz, on March 6 to 8, 1906, American soldiers killed 900 Moro men, women, and children in the crater of an inactive volcano. Following the massacre, President Roosevelt wrote to the commanding officer, General Leonard Wood, "I congratulate you and the officers and men of your command upon the brilliant feat of arms, wherein you and they so well upheld the honor of the American flag." From June 11 to 15, 1913, a second tragedy occurred at Badbaksak, another volcanic crater where Moros sought refuge, resulting in over 200 deaths. In 1916, the Philippine Autonomy Act was passed, which officially committed the United States to granting Philippine independence once they proved self-governance. The United States recognized the Philippines independent on July 4, 1946. The Filipino fight for independence grew into a revolution against U.S. colonial rule. When the United States reacted to the uprising of Filipinos by violently consolidating and reaffirming its power, the Filipino people still persevered. This conflict urged political and social reform in the Philippines and caused Americans to rethink their ideas of empire, governance, and inferiority. The Philippine-American War is America's overlooked and brutal imperial past.